Welcome back to the part list example lot series. This is video number 4. Previously we looked at getting started with a Rebrickable parts list, and today we're going to do more of the same. Now for the first time I went through with the bricks, I actually just recorded the entire thing. I did cut out a couple minutes here and there, but for the most part it was straight on through. Since then I've done the, the miscellaneous pile and not the slopes. I did one other of those subgroups that I've sorted. Today I'm going to look at a few plates, but I'm not going to go all the way through like I did last time. So that was like a half-hour video. Not going to do that again, but I did want to cover a few specific elements, specifically things that are printed. So we're going to be looking at how to take care of printed pieces when making these lists. It's just a matter of going and finding out the specific design on there. Now, prints have their own part number on this method, the way that we're doing this, but I haven't really seen a way to do stickers. I don't know if it's a different designation. I really haven't looked too in depth on stickers. So I do have one tile with a sticker on it. I might be able to find a specific, like it has its own little box. But I think the way it's going to work is I'll just have these tiles listed, and then one of those has a sticker on it, but there really isn't a way to indicate that on Rebrickable. So here's the lot that we're going to be working on, tiles and plates. So this will probably be the largest of the lots that I do, of the subgroups that I actually sorted out back when we were doing video number 2. And I think video number 1 was washing, 2 was sorting. The last video number 3 was the bricks and getting this list started on the computer. And now for number 4, we're going to be looking at some of these, like I mentioned, just some of these prints right here specifically, and also some of these jumper plates that have slight mold variations. So I did want to mention those things that have a specific way to handle it on this parts list, and the way that you would want to approach that to make sure you have everything correct, but not going through every single piece this time. And the last video, number 5 or number 6, however many more of these I do, I think I'm going to try to do one more after this. So number 5, to wrap up the series, going to look at the valuation specifically and some of the ways to export and actually store this data that we're working so hard to gather. And what's nice about this is it kind of sticks around, so you can save this as a parts file. Even after you kind of get rid of this list on Rebrickable, there's ways to store it as a file that you can bring it back in at a later date and check it out. And that's nice for comparing prices down the road, or if you just need to have this individual list again. So let's go and look at these tiles on Rebrickable. Temporary parts list updated now to 257 total parts, and then it actually shows you how many of these are individual lots. So on Bricklink it's called lots. These are unique parts. 145. So this white one and this yellow one are both a single part, but since there's two different colors here, that's giving us a higher part count. So just looking at some of the different numbers around here, and then also just mention this quickly, our estimated value at this point, close to $370. Like I mentioned, price is seeming a little out of proportion, but much more coverage on that coming up in the 5th and last video, just talking about where in the world some of these crazy prices are maybe coming from, and trying to trace that down. So in terms of what I've got on here already, we have the bricks from video number 3, so the 1x1s that I started with, and then kind of all consolidated here. There's several options for kind of viewing this, and I'm switching between the part and the price options. If you click one 2 times in a row, it will reverse the order. So flip it, just putting alphabetically, bricks are B, antenna is A. So this is A to Z right now. If I click this again, it will switch from Z to A. So windshields with the W, windows with the W, and then Technic and stuff like that showing up at the top. I'll switch it back to this way. This is kind of my standard view. So the bricks are in, the windshields and storage are in, and the miscellaneous parts are in. So that's 3 of the subgroups that I had sorted from video number 2. And now we'll be looking at some of these plates and tiles specifically. So let's just start with our smallest tile. the 1x1 square, and I happen to have all 3 prints, 1, 2, and 3, on this yellow 1x1 tile. So let's see if I can find a part number on here. It's going to be pretty small. Actually, I don't want to mess with that. I'm just going to search, use the search tool. And I realized as I was editing the last one, I needed to have my parts list over here on the right a little bit more. So we'll try to keep this over here. 1x1 tile, and 3070. There's 2 variations. There's the tile without the groove, which would be the older one. The tile with the groove. Pretty much all the tiles you're going to be getting these days are the ones with the groove. So on the camera here you can see this small groove around the perimeter at the bottom. Very helpful for taking those off of base plates and surfaces. So 3070B, yellow, again just typing the first couple letters of the color is enough to bring that up. If I had more of these that weren't printed, I would add these now, but I only have these 3 in yellow. So I'm going to make our quantity 3 here, add the part, and then while I'm here I'm going to do this print, which is on a bright light orange 1x1 tile. What is our design on here? Actually, I haven't really looked very closely. Some kind of minotaur creature, possibly from Nexo Knights. Purple color printed on this bright light orange. Now, in this case, I actually do have more of these bright light orange 1x1 tiles, and they're over here. You can't see them. They're out of the frame. They're right over here. So I'll count these up real quick. We got 2, 4, 6, 7 more that are not printed. So I'm going to add a total of 8, and then one of these I'm going to mark. We want bright light orange, and I'll add this, and now I'll go and add in the decoration. So I've got to scroll down until I get to tile. It should be pretty close to Technic. Here is the yellow one, and here is the bright light orange one. So let's go in here and change this to our print. So most of the decorated elements, especially the tiles, almost everything that's printed will be designated with a PR. So if you just type this PR, it should start pulling up some of the tiles that have that design. And actually right here is a summary of the prints, and we can see our number 1 print is on the yellow right here. But this is the bright light orange. I'm looking for that minotaur. So PR doesn't immediately pull up anything really familiar. Most of it is our recent dots designs. So instead of that, I'm going to try 3070B with purple and see if that will pull up anything. So here we go. The third entry down is 3070B, PR0153. So that would be the designation. That would either be something I had to know from Bricklink, or I would just try to guess it. But now that I have this actual number, I can use this down the road. 1x1 tile with bright light orange bull on dark purple pentagonal shield print. So the benefit of having really descriptive titles for these parts is that there's more keywords to search through. So by simply adding this purple keyword in here on the search, that is also included in the title, in the name for this element, and it will pull it up amid some of the other ones that have purple in their name. But by using more keywords, you can kind of filter this out until you're left with the very few relevant pieces that you're looking for. And in this case, I'm going to make it 1 of these. So let's save this part and see what that does for our count. I think what that did is it actually took out all 8 of my other ones, and it just replaced it with the 1. So I'm going to have to go back and add in those other ones now. 3070B. So I really shouldn't have added 8, I guess. Bright light orange. Now there's 7 plain ones. Okay, so if we scroll down, let's sort it by part alphabetically. And now find this tile. There's our print. Just 1 of those, and now 7 of the plain ones. I'm probably going to have to do a similar deal with the yellow, where instead of adding all 3 with their own print, I'm going to have to do it 1 by 1. So let's do B PR 0026, and it should pull up this number 1. I'll change this to 1. And this will be the tile with the numeric 1 print on it. So save part. And now probably go in here. I bet there's a faster way to do this, but there's only 2 more, so it's not going to take very long. Yellow. Just add these one at a time and add each print individually. So there is the printed tile. Where's my plain one? So if this is PR0026, I'm going to make an educated guess and say 0027 is our number 2. It's not always the case, but a lot of times there is this iterative factor built into the naming scheme, which is pretty helpful just in terms of if you know one thing, if you know a print about one thing, or if you know a window. This is in some of our window parts as well, where you can start kind of iterating up to find really similar parts. 3070B. We'll do this one more time for our printed here. One more with the number 3. Where is it? Puts it way down here. PR0028. Hey, there you go. 3 in a row iterations. Everything makes sense. Not always the case, but I think it holds true more often than not. And now we have our 3 individual prints, the 1, 2, 3, printed on the yellow 1 by 1. A purple bull printed on a bright light orange 1 by 1, and 7 additional plain bright light orange 1 by 1 tiles. So that's kind of how you go through that process. Just keep in mind that Bricklink is another handy reference. Referee-handeds. Don't think that's a word. But also, if you have the instruction manual that this would have came in, that should have an additional number called the part ID, and that is actually a unique identifier. There's one for every individual Lego piece. Pretty much every modern set has these now. In the back of the instructions, it will show a list of parts with their part identification numbers. I'm actually going to go grab one. So the instructions for 70800 here, just trying to grab something to use it as an example. On the very last page, it lists out all of the parts in this set, and underneath each one, it has a 7 or 8 digit number. Let's see, which ones are these? These are the 7 digits. So these are the most common part ID format. And this is what I used in my recent experiment with the bingo game that didn't really work out. So if you didn't see those on our channel, it was kind of a short-lived deal where I made a random picker for these numbers, and then I tried to play bingo with the ones that it picked based on this board that I had made. Didn't really work out, so I might try to change it up again in the future. But basically what we have is a unique number for every part and color combination in addition to the prints. So these heads are both the same flat silver minifig head, but they have unique part ID numbers, even if they're just 1 digit apart. Again, like I was saying with those iterations where it's in the same set, so this is probably assigned this number in a relatively similar time frame. So this unique printed head has 6062700, and then this one, the same color, the same mold. The only difference here is the style of print on it, 6062701. So really nice to have these numbers now that LEGO is publishing in the back of their instruction books. This has been going on for the past couple years. Most of the modern parts, we do have these numbers, and that applies to pretty much everything with the print. There's a few edge cases here and there where it's maybe a different kind of element, like a cloth, that we don't always get the number for. And a lot of our older elements, we don't have part IDs, because that was before LEGO published those in their instruction books. But these would definitely have a unique part ID, and plenty more to read up about with those another day. Let's go ahead and try to wrap this up. We're looking at some 1x2 jumpers, and the reason I want to look at these is because there's a couple different variations, specifically with the underside of these parts and how they connect. So the newer jumpers have what's called a stud holder, and the older ones is what's called a bar, or depends on where you look, but this is kind of the two main variations. And another variation that you might find is, again, talking about this groove around the perimeter that becomes helpful when working on taking these off of surfaces taking them off of base plates with brick separators, or even just your fingernail. So older ones will have neither the groove nor the stud holder. Instead, they're flat all the way down and they have the bar. Newer ones have both. In fact, you won't find one with a stud holder that does not have a groove. And then there's also a few in the middle. So there's actually 3 variations of this 1x2 jumper plate. And they do have separate designations on Rebrickable and on Bricklink, different places like that. But we need to start with the base number. So I'll start with the old one here with the bar on the bottom. This has its own number, and it is not printed, not molded on that specific one, so I'll have to look it up. And we can just do 1x2 jumper. And here we go. We have 3794A, 3794B, and then the new one is 15573. So the 94A is without the groove. 94B has the bar underneath with the groove, and the updated one with the longer 5-digit number is the groove and the stud holder inside. So what was this yellow one? This one was not grooved, so this is A, yellow. Just one of these in the slot. The rest of these are up here, so then there's no other yellows. So we'll add that one. And then it's just a matter of going through to see which of these other ones don't have a groove while I have this A one selected. Once I have all the ones without a groove, and it's probably the case where some of these white ones have a groove and some of them do not. So let me try to grab 2 of these real quick and do a comparison. Alright, here we go. Here are 2 white 1x2 jumpers. The one on the right has a groove, the one on the left does not. But as you can see, they both have this inside bar support. So this is a case where they have the same 4-digit number, and we're looking at the A variation and the B variation. These have separate boxes on our Rebrickable parts list. It's just for my personal records, and I like to have the differences marked down. And Rebrickable allows us to list it, so I might as well make use of that. So these are the rest of the plates that I'll be putting in. Some interesting ones up here with the cutout and the slopes. There's actually some surprising plates still in stock at the hobby store, but mainly wanted to talk about using Rebrickable to keep track of these prints and these different mold types. This also occurs with some other kinds of pieces. Let me grab one of these panels over here. These 1x2 wall panels. This is the old version, smooth walls all the way up. The new version has reinforced sides. Again, it's not going to affect a lot of your building techniques. It does start to play a role when you're looking at the transparent versions of these pieces, because now there's kind of an interruption on the smooth surface. So depending on how particular you are about that, it might make a difference. But the new ones tend to be cleaner anyways. So just another small difference that we have from year to year in the LEGO system, as they keep their molds updated, and also as they figure out, that maybe this is kind of a weakness where that can bend a little bit, and so adding in this reinforced wall does resist to that bending, and maybe it gives your piece a longer lifetime. Everything like that plays a role, and they're the ones in charge. They're making the rules, so they can kind of do that when they see fit. Most of the time, that does get a new part number, so these would have 2 different part IDs and part numbers. Even here in Rebrickable, there's no need for the designation with A and B in this case. But sometimes they don't, and it's something you kind of have to figure out. Rebrickable, really the core focus of this site is, and this is what I've talked about in some of my other videos, if you have certain LEGO parts and certain LEGO sets, you can actually build completely new LEGO sets and also mocks. So the creations from the community kind of hosted on this site, and Rebrickable is a way to kind of put those all in one place as a hub. Also allows people to sell instructions. And then to kind of facilitate all of that, you need an inventory. You need a database of Lego parts. And so they are also using, I think, a system from Bricklink. They're pulling price information from Bricklink. So a little more work here to finish filling out my temporary part list for this hobby store lot. And then slowly building up the value, building up the total piece count. Video number 5, I will start when I have everything in place and start looking at, where in the world is this kind of high valuation coming from. Just for less than 300 parts, we're already getting a $370 price tag. Doesn't really seem quite right, so I'm going to be talking about, why are these pieces so expensive? We sort by price real quick. Why is this part in particular saying it's worth $60? Even for new condition, that shouldn't really be the case. Even for something that's kind of rare, as it says, in 2 sets, you kind of expect that to be more of a reasonable price. So something worth looking into for sure, as I've been using these Rebrickable parts lists and kind of noticed, these are looking a little bit high in terms of what they're actually worth. Lego pieces, even the more uncommon ones, hardly ever want to pay more than $1 for those. So why are we seeing pieces worth $60 and $30? That doesn't seem quite right. So that will be the next video. So keep an eye out for that to wrap up the Rebrickable parts list series. And then going into 2021, there's more stuff coming out. Already got some footage recorded for the next batch of content. And we'll see you guys there.